It goes like this. Hands up high, girls without a man and don't lie. Cruising the club, you're there with no chick. Freaks in the air, and it goes like this. Hands up high, girls without a man and don't lie. Cruising the club, you're there with no chick. Freaks in the air, and it goes like this. Goes like this. Like this. Goes like this.
Caution, do not overload.
Thưa quý vị, chuỗi sự kiện truyền thông điểm đến Tourism Marketing Day sẽ được bắt đầu trong ít phút nữa. Một lần nữa, ban tổ chức xin được trân trọng kính mời quý vị đại biểu, quý vị khách quý vui lòng ổn định vị trí chỗ ngồi, chuyển điện thoại di động sang chế độ im lặng và hạn chế di chuyển trong khi chương trình đang được diễn ra. Chương trình của chúng ta được phát sóng trực tuyến trên các kênh truyền thông của ITE. Xin được mời quý vị cùng chuẩn bị sẵn sàng. Ladies and gentlemen, the Tourism Marketing Day will begin shortly. Now, once again, we would like to invite you to kindly settle your seats, switch your mobile phone to silent mode, and refrain from moving around during the entire program. Thank you very much.
It's hard to find a love through every shade of gray. It's hard to find a love through every shade of gray. It's hard to find a love through every shade of gray. It's hard to yesterday. It's hard to find a love through every shade of gray. It's hard to yesterday. It's hard to find a love through every shade of gray.
Kính thưa quý vị, và ngay bây giờ, Diễn đàn Du lịch Việt Nam, chuỗi sự kiện truyền thông điểm đến Tourism Marketing Day xin phép được bắt đầu. Xin được trân trọng chào đón quý vị đại biểu, quý vị khách quý đang cùng quay trở lại với Diễn đàn Du lịch Việt Nam, chuỗi sự kiện truyền thông điểm đến Tourism Marketing Day trong khuôn khổ của Hội chợ du lịch Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh lần thứ 16 năm 2022. Một lần nữa xin được chào đón tất cả quý vị. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and warmly welcome back to the Tourism Marketing Day in the framework of the 16th International Travel Expo Hồ Chí Minh City 2022. Kính thưa quý vị, chương trình của chúng ta ngày hôm nay được phối hợp giữa Sở Du lịch Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh và đơn vị truyền thông Wanderlust Tips được phát sóng trực tuyến trên các kênh truyền thông của ITE. Và thưa quý vị, Hội chợ ITE Hồ Chí Minh City năm 2022 là sự kiện du lịch quốc tế duy nhất tại Việt Nam có chương trình người mua quốc tế. Chương trình mang đến cơ hội cho các doanh nghiệp quốc tế mong muốn mở rộng thị trường, mang du khách đến Việt Nam cũng như tìm kiếm các đối tác du lịch tại Việt Nam. Và quý vị thân mến, hội chợ của chúng ta năm nay nhận được sự quan tâm của hơn 500 doanh nghiệp du lịch quốc tế. Và sau khi sàng lọc qua sự tư vấn của các đơn vị uy tín, ban tổ chức đã mời trên 150 người mua quốc tế đến từ 18 quốc gia và vùng lãnh thổ tham dự. Qua đó, hội chợ ITE Hồ Chí Minh City lần thứ 16 năm 2022 là cơ hội mở ra hơn 6.000 cuộc hẹn thương mại B2B giữa người mua và các đơn vị triển lãm. Chúng tôi hân hạnh được chào đón sự hiện diện của tất cả quý vị. Và thưa quý vị, đến tham dự với chương trình của chúng ta trong buổi chiều ngày hôm nay, chúng tôi xin được trân trọng giới thiệu sự hiện diện của đại diện ban tổ chức. Trân trọng giới thiệu ông Lê Trương Hiền Hòa, Phó Giám đốc Shop Sở Du lịch Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu bà Nguyễn Cẩm Tú, Giám đốc Trung tâm xúc tiến du lịch Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh. Thưa quý vị, đại diện tạp chí Wanderlust Tips xin được trân trọng giới thiệu bà Crystal Huyền Trang, Giám đốc điều hành tạp chí du lịch song ngữ Anh Việt Wanderlust Tips. Và để chương trình của chúng ta ngày hôm nay được thành công tốt đẹp, chúng tôi xin được trân trọng giới thiệu và chào đón sự hiện diện của các diễn giả trong và ngoài nước tham dự vào các phiên tọa đàm trong buổi chiều ngày hôm nay. We would like to introduce the presence of our speakers. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Mr. Nilesh Zabari, Managing Director of Vice Media Group, ABAC. Welcome. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Dr. Jackie Ong, Senior Program Manager, Senior Lecturer, Tourism and Hospitality Management. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Mr. David K, Brand Director at Wink Hotels Chain. Welcome. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Mr. James Young, Vice President of Wink of WMC. Welcome. Yeah, welcome. Welcome, sir. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Mr. Nicholas Power, General Manager of Radisson Blu Phú Quốc Resort. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Ms. Daisy Kanagasa Papathi, RMIT SPM Lecturer. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Mr. Alexander Reiner, Director Government and Destination Relations at Emirates. Welcome. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Mr. Varun Grover, Country Head of Booking.com for Vietnam. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Mr. Erwin Bobov, Managing Director of Daewoo Hanoi Hotel. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Dr. Nuno Ribeiro, Senior Lecturer and Research Cluster Lead Hospitality Tourism Management. Và xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, please welcome Ms. Leo Ngân Anh, Program Director of Event Management in Hoa Sen University. Một lần nữa xin được trân trọng chào đón tất cả quý vị đại biểu, quý vị khách quý, các diễn giả và đặc biệt đó là sự hiện diện của các cơ quan thông tấn, báo chí, truyền thông đến tham dự và đưa tin về sự kiện để giúp chương trình của chúng ta nhận được sự lan tỏa lớn nhất và mang lại những thông tin giá trị nhất. Xin được trân trọng chào đón tất cả quý vị một lần nữa. Once again, welcome ladies and gentlemen. Và thưa quý vị, trong phiên buổi chiều ngày hôm nay chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau trải qua 3 chủ đề hấp dẫn và thú vị được chia sẻ bởi các diễn giả và các chuyên gia trong chương trình. Và phiên đầu tiên chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau tìm hiểu về sự quan tâm của Gen Z đối với lĩnh vực du lịch. Thưa quý vị, ngày nay chúng ta nghe rất nhiều về thuật ngữ Gen Z hay còn gọi là thế hệ Z, thế hệ Z thưa quý vị. Và đây là những người trẻ có sự thay đổi trong suy nghĩ và cập nhật những điều mới mẻ trên thế giới một cách nhanh chóng. Thế hệ Gen Z đang ngày càng khẳng định được vai trò và tác động không hề nhỏ đến các ngành nghề, đặc biệt đó là đối với ngành du lịch của chúng ta. Sắp tới đây chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau bắt đầu phiên tọa đàm liên quan đến chủ đề kết nối với các khách du lịch thế hệ Z, hiểu được thói quen du lịch, yêu cầu và sở thích của họ ảnh hưởng đến du lịch như thế nào. Với chủ đề này chúng tôi rất mong muốn có thể giúp cho các doanh nghiệp, các cá nhân có những góc nhìn mới mẻ và đa chiều hơn về nhóm khách hàng trẻ này. Những yếu tố nào tác động và hình thành nên nét tính cách của thế hệ Gen Z và cách sống mà thế hệ này hướng đến, từ đó có thể khai thác về cách họ đi du lịch và lựa chọn những trải nghiệm du lịch để đưa ra các hình thức tiếp thị điểm đến một cách phù hợp nhất. Và thưa quý vị, ngay bây giờ không để quý vị phải chờ đợi lâu, quý vị chúng ta sẽ cùng đến với phiên tọa đàm đầu tiên trong buổi chiều ngày hôm nay. Và xin được trân trọng giới thiệu kính mời lên sân khấu điều phối viên của phiên tọa đàm này. Thưa quý vị, hãy cùng chào đón bà Leo Ngân Anh.
So thank you, Ms. Nguyen, for introducing me. And I am Nganan. I will be your moderator in the section 3, the Connecting Gen Z Travelers. And, with a desire to promote the development of Vietnam's tourism in the digital age, we hope that the forum will bring you a useful and a valuable information about through variety of topics shared by our reputable experts at home and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, Generation Z, or we are normally shortly called Gen Z, is a term to refer to a group of people who were born in the year of 1997 to 2012. And many industries nowadays are interested in this age group because of the differences of psychology, behavior, and the way to receive the information. So, moreover, this age group will also play a decisive role in shaping the future development trend of society. And it is undeniable that Gen Z is also start to have a significant impact in the tourism industry because of their differences in the psychology. And so now we will gonna to know more about the extent of Gen Z influence on the tourism industry and how to connect, how to attract them with the tourism business in the most effective way. And now please join us to answer this question through the topic connecting with the Gen Z travelers with the participation of the 3 honor guests. So now please welcome on stage. I would like to introduce, welcome on stage, Mr. Nilesh, the Director of Vice Media, Asia Pacific region. And another honor guest today, I would like to invite Dr. Chak Thion. She is the Senior Program Manager and also a Senior Lecturer of Tourism in Hospitality Management. And last but not least is the presence of Mr. David Kay, the Brand Director of Wing Hotel Chan. And thank you so much for taking the time to join our discussion today. Please have a seat. And the first part of the session today is about the tourism trend among young people, or we can call Gen Z. So for this first question, I would like to ask Dr. Jackie. Yeah, how do you assess the tourism trend of young people, specifically is the young generation that we have mentioned before in the Gen Z?
Yeah, thank you for your questions. Yes, generally, I would say each generation has a different perspective, and also the development trends will tend to be heavily impacted by factors such as the environment, lifestyle, and etc. And therefore, we can analyze Gen Z travel trends by factors such as environment, technology, and lifestyle preferences, or even economic potential. Yeah, and let's take a look at maybe the first factor, the element on technology. Yeah, Gen Z is a generation that is considered more creative, more dynamic, and because of their exposure or their access to at early age to technology, and therefore they are. They are sometimes known as the generation of internet, and also sometimes they're known as the digital natives, or even known as Zoomers. Yeah. And because of this, because of their early access to technology, they are therefore more willing to try new things. They are like, when they travel, they like to experience new things, and they don't mind to challenge themselves when they travel, because they have easy to access to information, and they can navigate easily using technology to organize their trip. And yeah.
Through your response, I have heard that you mentioned a lot about the term technology.
Yes.
And we cannot deny that Gen Z is the generation that we have raised in the development of the modern technology era.
Yep.
So do you think that is this a reason that us as generation travelers, that we have a special view and we have a earlier awareness about the current environmental issues, and because of this, does this affect the habits of the travel trend of Gen Z?
Yes, thanks for your questions again. Yes, Gen Z, because of their early access to technology, and partially because of their education background, their life, so they are very well versed in terms of sustainability concept at a very young age. So they have thus generate the trends of sustainable tourism, eco-tourism, responsive tourism, even community type of tourism. So when they travel, they will tend to go to places that will give them to appreciate the beauty of nature, and they like to go to places that unspoiled environment. Yeah, and this is really also really partially due to their background and their brought up. And Gen Z, so educations and their background, their family value play a part too. Yeah, because Gen Z generation are also children of Generation X. Yeah, they tend to be more protected. Yeah, and they have the freedom to access to technology and digital information, and therefore they are more prone to sometimes depression compared to their previous generation, and they are also the group that tend to have more psychological disorder compared to other generation. So therefore, when we cater to tour for them, personalized tour, customized tour for this group of travelers is important. And for instance, we can, they would go for traveling that help them to help them to develop their to de-stress their personal development. So, for instance, vacations they go for vacations such as yoga lessons to improve their well-being and their spiritual needs, and they will immerse themselves. They want to immerse themselves with the culture, and therefore, we customize the tour according to this group of Gen Z generation.
Thank you for your sharing. Through your sharing, I think that personalized travel is also one of the trends that will welcome the Gen Z travelers, because it can meet the individual needs and the requirement of the travelers nowadays. So I think also to understand the travel habits and the requirement of Gen Z travelers is also to better understand their travel trends. And some Gen Z people often choose the short trips and optimize costs due to the time constraint, and sometimes because of the potential economics. So for this question, I think I will ask Mr. David K. Yeah, how does this habit affect the travel preferences of Gen Z?
Yeah, good question. Before we get into Gen Z, I think we've all changed, haven't we, in this age? There's a really great book by a writer called Nicholas Carr, and he was speaking more about content, but also about how technology has changed how we think. And he had this wonderful quote, which was, I used to be a deep sea diver in the sea of words, and now I just jet ski across the surface. And it's so true, isn't it, for all of us? And you touched on the idea of digital natives. An academic called Dan Prensky said we're either digital natives or digital immigrants. And slightly older generations, such as myself, would be classed as an immigrant. However, we've all had to develop fluency. I think that's critical, isn't it? As a marketer and a brander, we need a high level of fluency. But to go back to Gen Z, I guess, technology impacts their travel decisions dramatically. There's some research that says 90% of Gen Z say their international travel decisions are influenced by social media. Nearly 6 in 10 Gen Z use their smartphone for travel inspiration. And that's quite remarkable, isn't it? I think for me personally, I'm seeing a shift away from platforms such as TripAdvisor. Most people I know, particularly of a Gen Z demographic, use Instagram and follow people that they trust for food, for travel, and the power of those people has become much more dramatic, and it's something that hotels such as Wink, our hotel, is also tapping into those sort of thought leaders in travel and food that Gen Z people also follow.
Yeah, this is a special sharing. It's from you. So Mr. David has also shared about the reason why Gen Z also choose the short trips than the predecessor, that Gen X or Gen Y. They have a long trips. So with Mr. Nilesh, I want to ask you, it's like Gen Z tends to have make a quick decision, but plan to travel later than the predecessor, that is Gen X or Gen Y. What is the reason why?
So firstly, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ho Chi Minh City, and inviting us to this wonderful ITE conference. So before I sort of and go into the details of that question, I think just to give you a little background about Wise Media as well. So Wise Media is the world's largest global youth media company. We are present over 30 countries. We publish a lot of content across 15 languages and reach over 400 million audience. And, you know, majority of our audience is Gen Z and millennials. So obviously we have a lot of data and insights which come from our audience to understand their preferences, their needs, their behavioral pattern. And a lot is talked about culture and community is something which comes out of that very, very strongly. And we have a short video maybe to share, if possible, I think, and that will give you a sense of what as a company we represent when we talk about Gen Z and youth, and then, you know, sort of we'll be able to better understand some of the why those preferences evolve in the way how they do.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nilesh. And I think...
Sorry, there's a video.
Oh, all right. Nice.
We don't know what's next. We don't know what's going to happen next year, next month, or hell, even tomorrow. But we have a sense of what's coming. Because we've always had a sense of what's coming.
Who is it?
An instinctive need to run into the burning building. To live in the moment before the moment. To find truth with the camera rolling.
So those who want to listen, who want to be part of it.
We partnered with the sitting president to further an essential national conversation about criminal justice reform.
This is the first time this ever happened.
We reimagined the music experience with Beyonce's Lemonade. We believed in Naomi, and Greta.
People are ready for change.
And ASAP. Before it was popular, because we could see they would impact a generation. We were here, and here, and here, before anyone else.
Why did Undertaker?
Feeling like you're in the middle of the change is so exciting.
So what now?
What's on the other side is everything.
We know we're entering a cultural revolution.
You will hear us. You will see us.
We know we'll be there before anyone else as this revolution sparks across the globe.
We will not stop.
And when we're there first, you're there first.
I want justice, I want miracles, I want transformation, and I want it right now.
Can I ask Mr. Nilesh why you give us this video as an extra gift?
Yeah, so I think it's again, of course, we are a media company, so we talk best in the form of media. So, you know, obviously words play important, it's very important, but we also want to show and showcase as to how, as a company, we represent the youth across the world. And as part of our media offering, the kind of understanding we have to represent tourism, travel, etc., every type of companies essentially. So just again, back to your original question of the habits of making decision. I think, again, we do a lot of research through our audiences. The key factors around how even a young person or a Gen Z makes a decision to travel is obviously not just taking a holiday. Obviously, holiday is important, but it's also influenced by, we think, like 3 key factors. One is getting inspired, one is getting informed, and the third is around getting and learning something as a part of it. So when they want to travel to another country or another city, they are very interested in the local culture, local scene, and it's not about just like nice images. Obviously, that's important, but it's all about being true and authentic to the experience, and that's very important. And obviously, we talked about technology being so important for, and they are always into the technology on the phone. So a lot of travel habits are also influenced by social media. And hence, sometimes the decision on traveling is obviously much quicker than, of course, the older generation, essentially. So you don't plan trips like months in advance or years in advance, like I'll go next year somewhere. You just follow your friends, they are going somewhere, it looks cool, you just want to go. And then that's sort of the habit of, how young people travel.
I think it's interesting sharing from you. And from your response, I think that we have a general picture of the reason why Gen Z, as you are a tourism business, right? So we consider Gen Z as a quite difficult customer segment that you need to attract them. So I think also because Gen Z is now occupied 25% of workforce. And Mr. David, how do you rate the impact on the tourism industry of Gen Z?
What's the question? How the impact?
Rate the impact on the tourism industry of Gen Z nowadays.
I mean, I guess this year Gen Z will be spanning an age range of 10 years old to 25 years old. So it's a lot of potential future impact, but also a key demographic for us at Wink is a younger traveller. And we need to apply a lot of mechanisms to meet them on their terms, which is through social, to provide experience-rich stays, in-depth insights into where to eat and drink in the city, and all these things have become very much part of our DNA to attract not just them. We tend to say that we're for the young and the young at heart, so we don't want to be exclusively focused on Gen Z, but it's definitely a key target for us at Wink Hotels.
So, Mr. Nilesh, yes. So, what measures you think that are available for business as yours to attract and connect Gen Z travelers?
So for every business or a brand which is in the travel tourism industry, I think, again, from a Gen Z point of view, it's very important when you are marketing to them to understand their preferences, their decision-making factors, their habits, etc., which we were talking about earlier, and basically, essentially taking all the measures what you need according to those habits, if I were to call. So one of the most important thing which we feel is to keep the conversation when, as a marketer, which you are trying to do, is to keep the conversation very real and honest, so that, Gen Z basically will trust you more. So that's very important. I think the other important factor is around, I think you mentioned about, they are very environmental conscious. I think it's very important around sustainability is a key factor when Gen Z people are traveling. They are very socially responsible. Obviously, wellness is another factor which a lot of people actually travel for as well. And more we see coming out of the pandemic that the younger people want to travel, and they want to, of course, with the hybrid work environment, they want to work and live in a very balanced manner as well, and so that they are just not working all day and they have a balanced life. And I think the most important thing obviously is around social media, and which is very important. Again, how do you connect with the right audience, and how do you connect on the right platform as well? So yeah.
Yes. So I think using social media, as you have mentioned, is quite a common tools for business to increase their brand awareness. But besides of these traditional measures, so advanced media, I think you have a different orientation. And do you have any different measures for the Gen Z travelers with their new lifestyle, with a new lifestyle?
Right. So again, what we've been talking about for media companies and brands when we are again attracting to Gen Zs, it's slightly different to the traditional media companies as to how you want to target the two different medias. And the underlying factor in any sort of media strategy we work with any brands is to keep the conversation very honest and very real. So I think it's super important to have that as a key factor. We across the world as WISE, we work with a lot of tourism boards, businesses who are in the travel industry. And our key differentiation is always been authentic, I think, as we call it. So whatever experience we want to share with our audiences is that, you know, it's real. It's coming from real people. It's coming from like almost their friend who is in another country. And that's what matters to the Gen Zs. They want to trust, they want to believe in that. And again, the culture, which is playing a very important point in all that, which sort of binds together. So we work across many different content formats in our language, what we call it, the IPs, what we have, and they are able to tell these kind of stories in a manner which really attracts, again, Gen Zs really, and again presents the local, let's say, Ho Chi Minh City to the world in a very local way, as to, let's say, an American or somebody from India or somebody from China would want to see, want to understand their culture, they want to understand their people, they want to understand their food, but in the language they speak, really. So that sort of is again very important. But at the end, of course, you have to do the marketing on social media platforms as well, because, you know, that's where they spend a lot of time. So the consumption of media is, of course, very heavy. It's also important to understand that the marketing strategy needs to be different for different platforms. So if you are on TikTok, you have to be authentic to TikTok. You cannot talk about Facebook on TikTok, or vice versa. So it's again very important to stay clear of stay clean of the platform, really, and because the audience on Facebook is slightly different to TikTok, to Instagram. So you really need to understand a lot of details behind all that.
Yeah, through your sharing, I can imagine that Vice Media is now build a young, dynamic, and friendly environment for the Gen Z travelers and customers of yours, right? So I think currently social networks are becoming more and more popular and receive the top attention of the majority of Gen Z travelers. So Mr. David, I have heard that Wink Hotel Saigon Center is one of the latest in the group of Wink Hotel chain, right? So could you please share some more about your experience, how to attract your Gen Z guests at your hotel when you're implementing the advertising campaign?
I think, first of all, I just want to say how happy I am to be here as we open the first Wink in March 2021, which in living memory must be the worst possible time you could open a hotel. And we post-pandemic and even in that little gap before lockdowns happened here, we did a lot of things that was specifically targeting to Gen Z. I mean, the big thing that's changed, I think, with Gen Z from growing up myself is we've gone from content consumers to content creators, right? The democratization of creating content through different platforms, TikTok, Instagram, has fundamentally changed this generation too. And I think everyone, we're all content creators, aren't we? Remarkably, I can edit videos on my phone, which I couldn't do even a few years ago, which is remarkable technology at our fingertips that we're all employing. One thing we realized with that in mind, that everyone is a content creator, especially Gen Z, was to create events and experiences that were content worthy. And it's maybe not as easy as it seems. So, for example, pre-opening, we hosted a secret pajama party. And what I realized during that party was we had 150 influencers and media people come through. And they had to pay at the bar, right? I think they got 2 free drinks or something. They had to pay it. And a lot of people in the hotel industry were asking, how much did you pay these guys to come? How much did you spend? And they paid us. They had to pay at the bar. And there's a reason for that, because it was content worthy. The amount of posts, stories that came out of that one event was absolutely remarkable. The digital invitations we sent out. And so that was very deliberate how we did that, because we knew it would have that effect. And it came to pass that this content came out and we attracted the people we wanted to attract, and it was a great way to create pre-hype. Another sort of initiative we've done, and, you know, I think Gen Z are very lifestyle, like you touched on, yoga and content oriented, but also very, very foodie minded, especially in Vietnam. Another thing we did was, I mean, I joined Wink before, I think 2 years before we opened. So the first hotel was under construction. And I'm looking at this hole in the ground, and we have social media channels running, and I'm thinking, what are we going to talk about? You can only talk about a hole in the ground for so long, can't you? We have about 10 renders of the hotel. So another initiative we did was to launch a digital magazine called the Dot Magazine, a bilingual magazine. And the challenge there that we had to face, and a bit like Nilesh has been touching on, was to be deeply authentic and to create content that could be valuable for Vietnamese people about Saigon life. You know, we envisaged a big community of Hanoi business travelers, foodies coming to Saigon. How can we make content that's authentic and valuable to them? They probably have friends here or family here who they can ask for tips. So we had to create something that was so deep in its knowledge of the city that it could be applicable to an international traveler, but also to a Hanoi foodie. And that was the big objective for us, to create this this rich content that's bilingual. And also that became like a virtual hotel. You know, the people we interviewed and focused on were people we imagined would be our guests when the hotel finally opened. And we also did this thing with the content where we made content that would be have two lives. So we did guest mixers and city guides, etc., because we knew that once the hotel opened, our guests would also want to read that as well. So we tried to be very efficient, but also smart with the content. And then, you know, I think we touched a lot on experience and experience culture. You know, again, a source of great content. We partnered with a local company called Vibeji, who do experiences, cocktail making class at a really good bar called Leon, coffee tasting at a place called 96B. Some really cool little stuff. They do a little event called questioning, where you have to sit opposite somebody and look at them and then answer questions about them based on your impression of them, and then you get to speak afterwards. And so these really cool stuff. So this is also a way for us to say to guests, hey, why don't you book an extra night, stay Friday night, you came on Thursday, stay Friday night and come and do an experience with Vibeji, or come to one of our events. So this is all very important. And then other elements we have, like you know, thinking of Gen Z being always on and always mobile. We have kind of, how to describe it, like a online, offline, physical guidebook in the hotel. So we have a shelf of objects, sneakers, board games, recycle bags with QR codes. So you can go to the wall and look at the things you like, and you swipe the QR code and it will tell you where to go and find the shop or the person or the thing. So we try and integrate this online, offline experience a lot based on our impression of Gen Z as being constantly connected.
I think it's interesting stories. I have the experience too. Your going hotel in Saigon Changer. I impressed because, you know, in the lobby, it's no different function.
Right.
It's a receptionist. It's a part here, and active decoration. The furniture is very young and beautiful, right? So when you start to establish the Wink brand, what are the segment of travelers, the guests that you are aiming to?
Yes, good question. I mean, we kind of made it for selfish reasons too. You know, working in different industries, I would go to conferences, and I would barely see my hotel room. You know, I would land straight to the conference, dinner, drinks, get back to the hotel room at midnight, wake up at 7 for breakfast, and again. So we kind of looked at the hotel experience and thought about what people would what people value, where they spend their time, and we kind of know that especially business travelers and Gen Z sort of foodie and culture hungry travelers barely spend time in the hotel. You know, we want them to go out. We want to tell them where to go and get pho, where to get a good cocktail. So that meant that the bed needed to be good. You know, the TV needed to be good, so you can stream your content from your phone or mirror your content from your phone. Good shower, all these key things, and then a big communal space downstairs with no reception. because I sit sometimes in, you know, I'll be waiting for a friend in a 5-star hotel lobby. I don't feel that comfortable. I feel like the staff are kind of hovering around me and the receptionists are looking at me. So we took the reception out and made it a place you actually want to hang out in. I've been into a lot of business centers, and I just find them in hotel business centers. I find hotel business centers some of the most depressing places I've ever been. You know, this dusty old desktop computer and one person falling half asleep. So we took that out too and created a co-working space to add to this sort of dynamic sense of a place that's alive and community-minded and a hub for the city.
I think that's an interesting way, that the exclusive way that Wing Hotels are bringing to your target guests. And thank you for your honest sharing, Mr. David. And ladies and gentlemen, the discussion of the topic connecting with Gen Z travelers has gone into an end with the useful information about the habits, interests, the requirement, and the orientation when traveling. Gen Z, in addition, we have to bring you a lot of valuable measures to connect Gen Z travelers. That is a strong influence on the tourism industry in the future, which many tourism businesses are interested in. And on behalf of the organizers, the Ho Chi Minh City Department of Tourism, the Wanderlust tips, a bilingual English-Vietnamese magazine, I would like to express your sincere thanks for the useful information from the special guest today. And Mr. Nelish, Director of Vice Media, Asia Pacific Region, Dr. Jackie On, the Senior Program Manager, and also the Senior Lecturer in Tourism and Hospitality Management. And last but not least is Mr. David K, the Brand Director at Wing Hotel Chain. And I cordially invite Ms. Crystal Huynh Trang, CEO of Wanderlust magazine, on behalf of the organizing committee, to come up to the stage and give the flowers to our honored guests.
Well, thank you very much, our esteemed speakers. Thank you, Ms. Ngân Anh, the moderator. Và xin được trân trọng kính mời lên sân khấu ông Lê Trương Hiền Hòa, Phó Giám đốc Sở Du lịch Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh, sẽ cùng với bà Crystal Huyền Trang, Giám đốc điều hành của tạp chí Wanderlust Tips, gửi tặng những bó hoa hay cho lời cảm ơn gửi đến các diễn giả và người điều phối của phiên tọa đàm đầu tiên trong buổi chiều ngày hôm nay ạ. Vâng, thưa quý vị, chúng ta vừa đến với phiên tọa đàm đầu tiên. And thank you very much, Mr. Nilesh Zabri, Dr. Jackie Ong, Mr. David K, and Ms. Leo Ngân Anh. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Xin được trân trọng cảm ơn ông Lê Trương Hiền Hòa và bà Crystal Huyền Trang. Một tràng pháo tay gửi đến các diễn giả. Thank you very much once again. Thank you. Vâng, thưa quý vị, chúng ta vừa được trải qua phiên tọa đàm đầu tiên với chủ đề kết nối với các khách du lịch thế hệ Z, hiểu được thói quen du lịch, yêu cầu và sở thích của họ ảnh hưởng đến du lịch như thế nào. Và thưa quý vị, tiếp nối phiên tọa đàm thứ hai trong buổi chiều ngày hôm nay thì Phương Nguyên xin được trân trọng kính mời quý vị sẽ cùng đến với một tập khách hàng cũng rất đặc biệt và rất quan trọng trong ngành du lịch của chúng ta, với chủ đề kết nối với những du khách nhiều tuổi, hiểu được thói quen du lịch, yêu cầu và sở thích của họ ảnh hưởng đến du lịch như thế nào, đặc biệt đó là đối với chuyến đi chăm sóc sức khỏe, du lịch trên du thuyền. Và thưa quý vị, chúng tôi hy vọng rằng là qua phiên tọa đàm tiếp theo này với chủ đề này, chúng tôi sẽ có thể mang đến những thông tin mới mẻ về một nhóm khách hàng tiềm năng và sự phát triển của các loại hình du lịch mới. Nhóm khách hàng này và nhu cầu của họ sẽ góp phần không nhỏ để thay đổi xu hướng du lịch, đặc biệt đó là sau đại dịch Covid-19 vừa qua. Và ngay bây giờ, để đến với những chia sẻ hữu ích xung quanh chủ đề này, chúng tôi sẽ được trân trọng kính mời lên sân khấu người điều phối trong phiên tọa đàm với chủ đề tiếp theo. So now we'd like to invite to the stage Mr. Nuno Ribeiro, Senior Lecturer and Research Cluster Lead Hospitality and Tourism, School of Business and Management at RMIT University, Vietnam, the moderator for this topic. Và thưa quý vị, hãy cùng dành một tràng pháo tay để chào đón điều phối viên của phiên tọa đàm này, ông Nuno Ribeiro.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for rejoining us again after lunch. Welcome, distinguished guests, to Vietnam Tourism Forum Destination Marketing Media Event Series Tourism Marketing Day under the auspices of the 16th Ho Chi Minh City International Tourism Expo. With a desire to promote development of Vietnam's tourism in the digital age, the forum will bring many of useful, valid information to you through a variety of discussion topics shared by reputable experts. They will join me shortly at home and abroad. So, ladies and gentlemen, if travel is the way young people choose to unleash their passion, discover and conquer new journeys for seniors, traveling in old age is to train back youth, rediscovering the nostalgia of youth. I certainly feel eminently qualified to moderate this panel. In tourism industry, the elders also have a significant impact. So what are the needs and psychology of this interesting age group? The degree of influence of this age group on the tourism industry and its connection methods. What is the elderly market? Join us to answer questions such as these and others to our topic, Connect with Older Travelers, understanding how their travel habits, requirements, and preferences affect tourism, with the participation of our two esteemed guests. I now would request join me on stage. Mr. James Young, Vice President of WMC, if you could please give him a round of applause. And Mr. Nicholas Bauer, General Manager of Radisson Blue Phu Quoc Resort. Round of applause for Nicholas Bauer. Thank you very much for joining us. All three of us eminently qualified to speak at great length on this topic. So my first question goes for Nicholas, General Manager of Radisson Blue Phu Quoc Resorts. In your personal opinion, what characteristics do you think the elderly as a market segment have that differentiate them from the rest of age groups, other than their musical tastes, of course?
First of all, obviously, thank you, Ho Chi Minh City Wanderlust and IT for having me.
Nicholas, you have a microphone right there.
Sorry, okay, let's say it again. First of all, thanks very much, Ho Chi Minh City Wanderlust and IT to have us and myself here today. Delighted to be here and hopefully also be able to share some of my insights with all of you. Interesting question, obviously. I think distinguishing features of the elderly from other ages is a decline in physical and mental health, so they say. But it doesn't have to be a stereotype, let's put it this way. I still believe that, as David K. mentioned earlier on, it is not just the elderly, it's the young at heart, right? And I think that's extremely, extremely important that those which are in that age group remember that very well. However, obviously, they will be slower in their reactions. They may find it more difficult to be able to walk. Their processing speed is obviously reduced, and obviously they're more prone and susceptible to diseases than young people, which is a fact. Along with the aging progress, the process of physiological changes, human psychology in the elderly period also has many concerns. They often feel lonely, looking to the past, or sulking, switching from positive to negative. So obviously, mood changes are quite a regular feature in the elderly or those which are young at heart. These problems make the elderly's mentality change a lot. Psychological problems have a great influence on the lives of the elderly. When the mind is stable and happy, the elderly will feel healthier and will be more active. The tourism industry has seen these very unique characteristics of the elderly to be able to develop and create appropriate forms of tourism for this age group.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nicholas. James, I'll perhaps switch over to you. With your knowledge of this target market, COVID-19 has added a sense of insecurity, if you will, which for this target market is critical. From your opinion, how has the industry responded to this? And can this be turned into a business opportunity?
Well, I think it was David who said that everyone has changed. And I think, yes, everyone has changed, and COVID has accelerated that change. And the industry, like many industries, was perhaps slow to respond at the onset of COVID. But there is now a growing and perhaps recognized realization in all levels of the business of the importance of hygiene. And you're seeing far more certifications coming in terms of hygiene, and customers demanding that as a standard. In the luxury sector, that was always a given. And we were always taught in the luxury sector, you don't even mention hygiene because your customer expects that for the price they're paying. But nowadays, the customer is inquiring which body you are certified by. You know, whether it is Forbes or whoever it is, they're wanting to see some international recognition of hygiene. And with that, that's not just the cleaning, it's also the education of the staff and how they handle that. Now, of course, hotels have had HACCP certification for many years around the world, but it's going beyond that now. And there's a lot in terms of the employee training for hygiene. And that raises an interesting question in itself, because how far as an employer can you intrude on an employee's personal life in terms of their hygiene?
Indeed.
Which can raises all sorts of ethical issues as well. But because of the way COVID has been, it is becoming a more demanding issue.
Thank you, James. Actually, you've touched on something that, if I may, I want to ask you a follow-up question, and also to Nicholas. This has created additional demands on the training of our staff. And here in Vietnam, as I think all of us who have been in the industry for several years, we have been struggling with the quality of our human resources and how to qualify and re-qualify those human resources so that we maintain service quality at the highest levels. Has this brought additional challenges to you on a personal level in your businesses? Could you share some of those experiences, and perhaps some success stories that I think we all need?
I see we only have 38 minutes left. I'm not sure. Do you want to start on that one? No, thank you. I think, again, was it David or Nilesh who talked about sorry, Jackie it was, who talked about Gen Z people are perhaps more psychologically impacted. And that's something that's very much, I think we're seeing in all industries, not just hospitality. The younger generation, whereas, as you say, we are all eminently qualified for this panel, whereas we would have been told to shut up and get on with it. You cannot do that with a Generation Z employee. You have to be more understanding. And certainly some of the things I went through as a youngster in the industry all those years ago, there is no way that you would be able to do that now. And the employer who understands that and recognizes that is going to be the winner, first of all. There has to be a change in the working environment. That's the first thing, but maybe Nicholas, you want to add?
Yeah, Nicholas, you want to interject here? Perhaps share your experience?
I think actually welcoming the elderly generations, let's say those with a young at heart, is quite interesting, because what we tend to realize is actually those which fall into that kind of age group nowadays, they don't want to be stereotyped as being the elderly, right? I think this is the worst kind of sentiment, right, that could possibly come across, okay, that you identify them automatically as somebody that is kind of a bit off, you know, and very moody, you know, they have special dietary restrictions, you know, they need to have a different kind of bedding compared to other people. So basically, I think nowadays people or guests in general just want to be treated all on the same wavelengths, okay? And obviously David K representing a hotel chain which is amazingly hype, okay, Wink Hotels. I wouldn't be surprised, okay, that the guests that we're actually gonna stay with you are not necessarily Generation Z, right? Because I think hotel business as such is evolving, and we talked about the co-working space, for instance, right? Obviously, I do represent Radisson Hotels and Resorts on the beautiful island of Quốc, and mind you, even there, you know, even though we are bound by certain, how to say, quality standards and SOPs and things and this and this and that. I always will try to find a leeway how to get around it, okay, and say, okay, if you want to survive in today's industry, you need to think out of the box. You need to be able to do things slightly differently, right? And why not create a co-working space in one of our lounges, for instance, right? But to come back again to this kind of generation thinking, I think this is all extremely stereotyped, okay? For us, a guess is a guess. It doesn't matter, okay, whether he's 25 or 65, you know. He wants to have his latte. He wants to have his freshly squeezed orange juice, you know. He wants to have Netflix, you know. He don't want to be on Facebook, you know. And if you look into TikTok, for instance, right, there are people on TikTok, and I think last week there was a couple performing a dance on TikTok, and they were definitely in their 70s, and it was amazing, okay? And I say, gosh, you know, the Generation C guys, they should have a look at that video and learn something from that.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Well, I mean, I think if we look from a staff point of view and also from a guest point of view, you also have to define what is age. And people will say, I am old. So I am 55, Namui Lam. Thank you. Jackie is saying I am old. No, but it is the thing. I don't think I'm old. I don't know whether you two think you're old.
Me neither, no.
And I'm sure if I asked anyone in this room to put their hand up if they think they are old, I can assure you nobody is going to say that.
If you think you're old, please raise your right hand. Oh, point taken.
But that is actually backed up by academic research, and you will know better than I do.
Indeed.
There was a study by Atami and Co. in Japan, where they looked at over a number of years how aging was changing, and they found, you know, that in the space, I think it was of a 15-year period, that the male independence and mobility, and you touched on mobility as well, had actually improved by almost 10 years. And the female one was not far behind. I can share the paper if you want. But that's the interesting thing. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, we'd have said old was 65 plus. Yeah, aged now is definitely 75 plus. So it's good news for all of us in this room. But that is a really important thing from a marketing point of view and from a destination point of view. And the other thing I would say is that certainly in the Western world, people are going to have to work longer, simply because of the pension deficits that are there. People are going to have to work longer. And I think in Europe, it's around, male retirement is now around 67, thereabouts, yeah. And by the time most of the people in the room get here, I would say it's probably going to be around 73 or something like that. So get used to it. You've got a long way to go. But again, that's a marketing opportunity. And I think, you know, if you take Wink as an example, yes, it's great. And you're certainly not going to just market to Generation Z. But it's that question for as people get older, they know what they like. And so if you're able to convert those customers at a younger age and keep your brand relevant, then you're going to have a customer for life.
Thank you, James. That's a great segue into my next question. Although emerging youth markets are capturing an increasing market share, the greatest percentage of discretionary income and the willingness to be spent on travel still belongs to customers age 50 and over. Have you found new ways of capturing that discretionary income to increase your profit margins on this market post-COVID-19? And I'll throw it out to either of you would like to start.
I think obviously now that we start to eventually see the light at the end of the tunnel and we are emerging out of COVID, we do realize that a lot of people obviously were stuck for the last 2 years you had all the savings in the world, but there was just no way you could get away. And obviously, these savings over the last 2 years, it means that revenge travel. I mean, it's something that came up a couple of months ago. And I think this is something which is still pretty much alive. People do see the need to travel. And the channels, say, where we can tap in to help them spend their savings, which they have obviously amassed over the last 2 years, especially in that kind of age group, which we call the young at heart, is obviously the wellness industry. And I mean, the wellness industry is nothing new. It's been around for thousands of years, okay, going back to the days of the Greeks, right? And this is where basically the notion of spa materialized. But I mean, obviously, for those which have reached 50, 60 years of age, right? Obviously, they say, I need to rejuvenate. I want to look younger. I want to be fitter. I want to, I don't know, lose weight, put on weight, whatever it is, right? So I think this is exactly the kind of thing that we are gearing towards, right? As I said, I live on the beautiful island of Quốc, and there's still such an abundance of beautiful forests and greenery around us. We have a beautiful beachfront. We have more than 800 palm trees, okay, or coconut trees. So we have more than 800 coconut trees, 821 if I'm not mistaken, and I didn't count them all by one, okay? But I mean 821 coconut trees, you can imagine, okay, the size of that property that I have been entrusted to manage, which is absolutely amazing. And obviously having this kind of size of property, it just enables you to think about activities, outdoor activities, whether it's Tai Chi in the morning, it's an evening yoga session, it is team building exercises, and you bring all the age groups together. But again, as I said, it's all about the wellness industry nowadays. And I think, especially after COVID, of 2 years of lockdown and suffering, and the first shots, the second shot, the third shot, the booster shots, people just get fed up, okay? Sorry to say. And at the end of the day, I think everybody still has to think that a healthy body in a healthy mindset, this is all that matters, really. COVID, in about 10 years from now, nobody's even going to talk about it anymore, right? Because in 10 years from now, there's going to be something else, right? It's just like nowadays, nobody talks about COVID, everybody talks about the monkeypox, right? And after monkeypox, heaven knows what's going to happen next. It is just, it's a cycle, okay? There's nothing we can do about it. So, just wellness.
Yeah, and if I may, I think also the other thing linking back into different generations is the importance of multi-generational travel. And so destinations like Phu Quoc and so on. The multi-generational travel is even more important after COVID because families have not been able to get together. Yeah, I was able to return to London for a family wedding, which had been delayed for over 2 years because of COVID. And that's just a small example. Families want to get together. And so, yes, there is a considerable purchasing power in the over 50s, but they're not necessarily in control of the purchasing decision. It could be that the Generation Z is saying, I want to go here because it's cool, it's got this. And so I think you've really got to look, particularly if you're looking at a resort development, how are you going to appeal to those different generations? Because it's not one size fits all anymore. There's got to be something for different generations within resorts.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for bringing up this topic. I think if we have time, we'll circle back to it because there is a difference between purchasing power and purchasing decision for sure. But I wanted to touch briefly on something that Nicholas mentioned, I think very apropos, which is the rise of wellness tourism, not only among the 50, 55 plus demographic, but among all demographics post 25 years old. That was a given in the luxury market, that certain properties had to have those services, they had to have those amenities, but there seems to be an increased demand, especially post-COVID, across all age groups. How have you responded to it? Have you noticed that trend? If so, have you responded to it? Could you perhaps share some insights on it?
Well, I think actually wellness is an industry which caters to all age groups. Everybody's into it, and many people do say at the end of the day, the younger you start, the better it is for you, because obviously once you have reached a certain age group, okay, you will benefit, okay, from the fact that when you were still young, you were into sports, you were into maintaining your diets, okay, you were watching what you're eating, you try to go easy on alcohol and right. The spending power and also obviously what people do set aside to actually take care of their well-being, it's not necessarily only the wellness industry, which obviously encompasses spas and so on. It's much more than that. And I mean, we have obviously a couple of ladies sitting here, right? And so it's already the cosmetics industry, for instance, right? A spa, it's not just a spa about different massage techniques. It's also the products, okay, that are being featured in that particular spa, right? And it's the opportunity for the big brand names, right, to basically put their mark on the map, right? So, and nowadays people will not necessarily just go to any spa. They will say, well, okay, this is the range of treatments, that sounds good, okay, but what kind of products do you feature? And that's equally as important, right? Because obviously we do live in a society, okay, which is still pretty much brand driven, okay? I mean, it's not just gonna be a pair of shoes, it's gotta be a pair of whatever, Gucci or whatever it is, okay? It cannot be just a suit, it has to be an Armani, okay? It can't be just a pair of shades, it's gotta be Ray-Ban, and obviously the same principle does apply to the wellness industry. So the more international brand names you feature, right, the more pull you can expect. And again, nowadays people are so brand savvy, and I mean, I've been calling this beautiful country home for the last 5 years, and it's mind-boggling, okay, how people are absolutely fascinated by brands, how they really absorb them, okay. And I just had an exchange with one of our VIP guest who hails from Qatar. And I remember when I was in Dubai, I thought that was already quite mad over there. But coming to Vietnam, I said, wow, this is reaching a completely new level here. But I mean, it's positive, okay? Let's face it, okay? At the end of the day, especially after COVID, I think we all want to spoil ourselves, right? For 2 years, we couldn't do anything, And as James said, it's really sad, okay, if a wedding has to be postponed for 2 years or 3 years, and it's amazing that they still wanted to tie the knot, because after 2 years, I can imagine, I'm not so sure that I really want to still do that, so because people do change.
Yeah, absolutely. That was actually one of our worries as well. But now, and I think we've got to be careful on this term medical tourism, because what is medical tourism? To me, medical tourism does not mean going to a spa. A spa is there for rejuvenation of mind and body. Medical tourism, to me anyway, is very much about, dare I say it, cosmetic treatments, first of all. And then secondly, serious medical treatments that you will not be able to get in your home country, or if you can, they are going to be prohibitively expensive. And talking about the lovely lady from Doha, I'm sure I worked in Doha before, and if you look at places like Sidra Hospital, which is a state-of-the-art hospital, so much of their business plan was very much aimed at medical tourism, ladies coming from Saudi Arabia and Qatar and elsewhere in the GCC for cosmetic treatment. Now, as a hotel, you have to be very careful about marketing yourself as somewhere that does medical tourism, to my mind. Maybe you will disagree, because there are enormous regulatory and legal issues about doing that. And you can certainly market yourself as somewhere that can pass on medical tourism tips, or as a hotel linked to a medical center, I think in Abu Dhabi, if you look at, is it Cleveland Clinic? There's a Four Seasons there, which does very well out of that business. And that is the way for hotels to go. A spa is an integral part of the luxury hotel experience, yes, and especially in a resort environment, but it is not a medical tourism. So if anyone cares to debate that with me, I'm more than happy to afterwards. But it is something, and I would say not even elderly people like ourselves, younger generation, of course, will expect a luxury spa with luxury products as a basic service. It's not even a nice to have anymore. It is a basic service.
Thank you so much, James and Nicholas. So insightful. If I could change tracks here for a minute, we know that Vietnam has one of the highest longevity rates currently and perspective for the future, and also one of the most active senior populations in the world, certainly in Southeast Asia. Recent research also indicates that post-COVID-19, the domestic market will more than exponentially grow in the next 4 to 5 years. Are there plans, at least in our industry, in your particular areas of business, to try and capture some of that domestic market, elderly market segments? And if so, how are we planning on doing that?
I think obviously the domestic market has shown us the light at the end of the tunnel. And I see it obviously in Quốc. When I joined the property in mid of December, it was still quite slow. And then obviously came TED. And since TED, we have never looked back. It has just been amazing. The domestic market has been feeding that destination, which is considered a so-called hot destination, month after month after month. And the occupancy levels that we have reached, for instance, in the summertime, we were in the 70s for the whole month. And that was just enormous, you know. And obviously, the infrastructure for Quốc was severely tested because obviously after 2 years of being in a slumber, to suddenly experience that kind of invasion, but it was a wake-up call for everybody. And to come back to your question, the age bracket, let's say the 50 ups, right? And they're like for leading a healthy lifestyle, a very dynamic lifestyle. And I mean, I see it by 4:35 a.m. in the morning, I can see the first of them walking towards the beach, you know, and then the sun is just about to go up, right? And this is how they start their day. It is amazing, okay? And it doesn't matter whether you're in Quốc or you're in Trong or in Da Nang. It's everywhere. It's the same. This is the way how to start a day. And I'll be honest with you, I think this is something apart from wearing the mask. If you turn back the clock 3 years ago, for instance, right? I remember, I think maybe about 4 years ago, I was in a conference in Bangkok and getting into one of the local tuk-tuks. And there was a family which got on board and they didn't say a word, but they were wearing masks. And I kind of looked at them, I said, Xin Chao. And they looked at me and they said, wow, how did you know? And I said, because you're wearing a mask. But mind you, you know, it's amazing, okay, that this country, okay, which already had this tradition or habit of wearing a mask, okay, has been setting a milestone for the whole world, okay. And I mean, everybody, including Dr. Fauci, okay, was talking constantly, okay, the best way to protect yourself is wearing a mask. However, you know, I have somewhat swerved off the subject a bit. I mean, a healthy lifestyle, as I said before, a healthy body in a healthy mind, or a healthy mind in a healthy body, whichever way you want to see it. This is just how they start their day. And it's absolutely, it's amazing. It's something that I think many countries or nations should have a look at. It doesn't matter, okay? Sometimes we try to stop them when there's a thunderstorm coming up, okay? Or when the waves are just too choppy, we have to say, please, you know, we have a giant swimming pool. Please do your morning swims there because we don't want you to go and swim when the red flags are up. But apart from how they start their mornings, obviously, again, in Quốc, there's still an abundance of things to do, and they're very active, you know. They take the cable cars to go to the Pineapple Islands, for instance, which is on the southern tip of Quốc. They go to the safari, you know, and they're very, very active. And in comparison, the Gen Z people are quite lazy, actually. They're just happy just to do nothing, right? And it is actually the 50 up, okay, which really are setting the tone. I say, my God, you know, we come here, we got 3 days, okay. In 3 days, you want to do something that other people probably need a whole week to do, but we will do it, we'll pull it off.
We're just more aware of our own mortality. But it is, sorry to just jump in there. I was at a conference yesterday where the CEO of Nestle was talking about their efforts to encourage young people to do more exercise, because they've seen the rise of childhood obesity here in Vietnam. And that's not just in Vietnam, it's around the world, because children are not going out and playing, they're playing on screens. And that is one thing in 10 years of involvement with Vietnam, I've seen far more. Yeah, and if we talk about an aging population, there is a stack of health problems building up in the younger generation. And they won't necessarily see it now, but they potentially will see it in 30, 40 years' time. And that you know, is a much bigger issue than we are able to discuss on this panel. But you know, going back to your original question, that aging population is a great business opportunity. But to my mind, again, the strength of the family unit, the strength of multiple generations traveling together is something that's very evident here in Vietnam. So I would go back to say that you need to be looking at something that is appeals across families, or across generations. There is a definite market, which I think will grow in Vietnam as it has elsewhere, is for resorts or hotels that cater specifically for adults without children. We all love children, but sometimes it's nice to have a resort or a hotel experience without children. And there is a definite growing demand for that. And that's something as well that will come in Vietnam. There's one hotel in the Middle East, in the Shangri-La in Oman, that does that particularly well, with 3 different products that are aimed at different age groups. And it means that families can still get together, but there is a separation.
For sure. Thank you very much, James. We have a few minutes, so my next question for both of you: has anything about this market segment surprised you in this about, I'd say, 1.5 years post-recovery time that we've been experiencing? Is there something that with your very long and distinguished experience in the business you were not expecting to see and it happened?
I would say, and not just in our business, but I think there's more of a demand for traditional medicine, and that's something, again, that is a potential growth. Because of all the debate over COVID, I think particularly in Asia, there's been more interest in traditional medicine. And that's also something that is potentially a market. The one thing I will say as well, which I'm not sure whether it was driven by COVID, but definitely more male medical cosmetic tourism. That's something that I can see as a huge growth market. Now, I am told, please excuse me, that Vietnamese ladies can tell if a lady has had cosmetic treatment in Thailand or in Korea. Is that correct? Yeah.
I see some heads at the back nodding. Okay, very knowledgeable.
But I think we're going to be seeing this thing where we be look, and you have to hand it to the Koreans for the fabulous way that their culture and their soft power has come across. But we will see many more male, particularly older male, perhaps having more cosmetic treatment.
So, you know, after this panel, the three of us, I think we're going to go to a spa and consider some options.
I think I just booked myself a ticket to go to Korea.
Nicholas, anything that surprised you in these recovery years?
Actually, it's just a volume. It's a sheer volume. And
you were not expecting these
numbers. To really witness, you know, people that, and when they do come, they really want to spend. They don't care. And it's just not, it's not that people plan their trip to Fukuoka and it's just a one-time shot. They keep on coming back again and again and again and again. And I have people that, okay, that over a 6 months period, they've been there for 14 times, right? And we keep on asking, of course, we are delighted to have them back, you know, and they're members of our rewards program. And so we say, what made you keep on coming back? I say, because Fukuoka is a destination, it is healthy. And even during the COVID lockdown, there was hardly anything on the island, all right? It was obviously it's an island, so it's pretty much it's locked off from the seaside. There was no way to get on, there was no way to get off, right? But I think it's just the return to the nature, right? It's a return to simplicity of life, right? And this is something which is really appealing to the young at heart, you know. It's a very peaceful destination. Of course, there's something to do for Gen Z as well. You know, you have your pubs, you have your bars, you have your karaoke shops and everything, you know. But apart from that, you know, it's just, there's still so much cultural value that Fukuoka can contribute, right? And, okay, it's just a list of few things, okay. Obviously, it's also called Pearl Island, right? So you have an abundance of shops selling pearls around the island. You have oyster sauce, you know, you have the pepper farm, you have the bee farm, and there's really a lot of things to do there. And this is why people just keep on coming back, you know. And I mean, we are on the northern tip, okay, of the island, okay, and where we have obviously the safari world, okay, we have the wind wonders, we have the Grand World, the city that never sleeps. And I remember between April and May, when we had the 4 days long holidays, there was an EDM event on that particular stretch of the beach, and it was just 5 days, 24 on 24 EDM non-stop. And I was telling myself, I'm running a full house, and I have different kind of age groups, right? And I said, I cannot imagine, okay? I can see somebody standing at the front desk at 4 a.m. and using not exactly the best choice of words and say, can you please just turn off the sound? But it didn't happen. It did not happen. 4 days of constant EDM, okay? And we had all age groups, okay? From the kids going up to the 70 plus, you know, and they all took it in a very positive way. And they all said, you know, okay, you like it, you don't like it, it's up to you. But at the end of the day, it brings people together. And when I went to the beach, you know, and witnessed at least one of the events, you had exactly that age group, the 50 plus, actually dancing. And the Gen Z was just lazy, you know. So, you know, so, and that's it, you know. So, yeah. And as James said, you know, the retirement age is being pushed forward again and again and again. And I think there was something on the net recently. 75 is the new 55. I think that says it pretty much.
So what does that make then 55?
It means basically you're 75, okay, but your mindset has not even reached 55 yet.
But if you're 55...
That's the new 35.
You're probably 35.
You're in your prime, James.
I would just add on that I think there are great destination opportunities to attract that elderly population who are wanting to travel and perhaps enjoy a more exotic retirement. Not necessarily all of the year, but the destination that gets the visa right, that works out the medical insurance, and ensures that the people on the visa are not a burden on public services, because this is always the challenge when you're talking about that. But I think there's a great opportunity for Vietnam here, that you can attract that elderly, high spending demographic if you get the visa right. And they're going to come and stay, and particularly go out to, whether it is to Da Nang, to Phu Quoc, or to Cam Ranh. And there's a huge amount of hotel capacity in all three of those destinations, as we know. So to me, that's one of the big opportunities here.
For sure, I think we've all been working very hard to overcome these bureaucratic difficulties, but I'm confident that we will very soon. And on this note, ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of our session. So our session of Connecting with Elderly Travels has ended. We hope the program has provided you with useful information about tourism demand, tourism trends, as well as measures to attract this market segment. On behalf of the organizers of the Ho Chi Minh City Department of Tourism and Wanderlust Tips, a bilingual English-Vietnamese magazine, we'd like to express our sincere thanks to our two panelists for their useful information they were so kind to share with us. Mr. James Young on my immediate left, please join me in a round of applause. And on my next left, Mr. Nicholas Bauer, General Manager, Radisson Blu Phu Quoc Resort.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, our esteemed speakers and moderator. Now, please remain on stage for the bouquet of flowers. As a thank you from the organizer. Xin được trân trọng kính mời lên sân khấu ông Lê Trương Hiền Hòa, Phó Giám đốc Sở Du lịch Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh, và bà Nguyễn Cẩm Tú, Giám đốc Trung tâm Xúc tiến Du lịch Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh sẽ đại diện ban tổ chức tặng hoa thay cho lời cảm ơn đến các diễn giả và điều phối viên của phiên tọa đàm vừa rồi. Vâng ạ, một tràng pháo tay để gửi lời cảm ơn đến các diễn giả với những thông tin rất hữu ích vừa rồi. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for your sharing. Vâng ạ, thank you once again. Thank you. Xin được trân trọng cảm ơn ông Lê Trương Hiền Hoa và bà Nguyễn Cẩm Tú. Vâng, thưa quý vị, qua phiên tọa đàm với chủ đề vừa rồi thì chúng ta đã hiểu hơn về nhóm khách người lớn tuổi và nhu cầu của họ, cũng như là những yếu tố ảnh hưởng đến quyết định đi du lịch của họ như thế nào. Đặc biệt đó là đối với những loại hình du lịch đang rất được phổ biến và phát triển hiện nay đối với nhóm khách này. Và ngay bây giờ thì chúng ta sẽ cùng đến với một tệp khách hàng cũng rất là quan trọng và cũng đặc biệt để chúng ta cùng nhau chia sẻ về nhu cầu của họ trong lĩnh vực đi du lịch. Thưa quý vị, du lịch của Việt Nam của chúng ta đã có những bước phát triển vượt trội sau đại dịch Covid-19. Và bên cạnh các dịch vụ du lịch tầm trung thì hiện nay chúng ta được biết đó là ngành công nghiệp không khói của Việt Nam đang ngày càng phát triển và tăng trưởng mạnh mẽ của du lịch hạng sang. Và ngay bây giờ chúng ta sẽ cùng đến với chủ đề chọn lựa điểm đến cho kỳ nghỉ của những du khách có chi tiêu cao. Đây là một phân khúc khách hàng không chỉ có tiềm lực về tài chính mà họ còn có tinh thần rất là cởi mở để thử những điều mới, những trải nghiệm mới. Và chúng ta sẽ có được những thông tin rất hữu ích xoay quanh chủ đề này cùng với sự điều phối. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu, and now please welcome to the stage the moderator of the third section, Ms. Daisy Kanagasapapathy. Welcome.
Good day, good afternoon, everybody. What an impactful and insightful afternoon it has been, and welcome again to the last session, which is we're going to be looking at choosing a destination for the higher spending tourists, which is going to be even more exciting because, as we all know, Vietnam has been a growing market for attracting high spending tourists. The strong growth that we see has been very positive, and it's also very encouraging for the country. Vietnam itself saw the growth of middle-class income people, and not only that, it also saw the increase of high net worth individual. It is predicted by 2026, Vietnam itself is going to have almost 25,000 people that is going to have high income net, which they are predicting is going to be a minimum of $1 million. So this is a huge market for Vietnam and for all of us. So it's time to tap this wonderful market. And for that, I am so happy to invite 3 geniuses in this field. So first, let's welcome Mr. Alexander Reiner, Director, Government and Destination Relations at Amadeus. Mr. Arun Grover, Country Head of Booking.com in Vietnam. And of course, Mr. Aaron Popo, General Manager at Hanoi Daewoo Hotel. Thank you so much to your wonderful panel for taking your time today with us. Wow, it's been an exciting day, so let's keep that and give more insightful information to our audience. Mr. Reiner, what is your assessment about the traveling patterns of the luxury consumer that we have these days?
Sure. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. So a couple of days ago, I did the keynote speech to the high-level forum, and I mentioned there were 6 trends that Amadeus had identified, which are kind of focusing on 2022. And I think, first of all, before I become specific about luxury travel, I think I'd like to mention a couple of them. They're available on the website, but there are 6 of them. So I want to refer to a couple of them. First one is, during COVID, people had a lot of time to think. And they did lots of thinking, and now they want to act. So you're having, people have the dream, which they always kind of plan for the future. That's become do it now. And we're seeing that trend happening throughout the world by way of bookings. And just to mention my background, you mentioned I'm from Amadeus. Amadeus is a travel technology company, and it provides the software and the technology to the travel industry. So from travel agents to airlines, to airports, to hotels, to basically every segment of travel tourism. And my job there is to collect all the data. And we, before COVID, were collecting 8.6 billion travel transactions every day. So that's where we get all this rich analysis and rich data where we can see how things are changing. So number one is the let's do it now. The second one is, they call it friendcation. Friendcation is people are traveling with their friends now. And we're noticing that we can see that through bookings. Instead of a flight being booked with one person, it's booked with a group of people and their friends. And that's a big trend. And people have learned one thing. They want the physical hug, the physical touch. So friends are traveling together now, not just families, but friends as well. So that's another group. And applying that to luxury travel, there's some very rich people who fly on private jets, and they're traveling with their friends. They're inviting friends to fly with them. So that's an example of how that's impacting the luxury segment. A third one is the active ecotourism, where people now are respecting the destination, the importance of the destination. And it's not about just ticking the box and paying a little bit extra money for your carbon credit. Now, people are actually saying, I want to actively engage in eco, and they do things like they do volunteering. Well, they volunteer, they engage with the local community, and they go way beyond the carbon offset. So that's a third one. And the fourth one, well, there's a couple of others, I'm not going to dwell into them, but the fourth one I do want to mention is the influence of media. Media by way of TV series, movies, and so forth. A lot of people travel to places because they saw a movie or a TV series and they want to go to the location where it was filmed. And it's a huge market. And it's one that, especially during the COVID period, has boomed because we find there's a correlation. When people are searching for a movie and they watch the movie, and then next thing they're traveling to that location of where it was filmed. So again, these are kind of trends for 22, and they're actually applying to the luxury market. But before you apply them to luxury market, you need to define what exactly is the luxury market. And there are many definitions. Is it just the rich people, or high-end people? Is it people traveling in business class? I mean, you know, you need to make, I don't think there is any official definition in the world that everyone agrees with. I think each one of us has to develop a definition that we believe in. And that's very important. Then you can apply how these trends and others apply to the luxury segment. And the last thing I want to mention before I run out of my 5 minutes pool is how people are booking. Now, the luxury market is actually using travel agents. And we find that 67% of the premium seats, that we're talking premium economy, business, and first class, 67% are booked via travel agents. So that gives you a very clear indication, if you want to target the luxury market, how do you reach that luxury market? And there are surveys that support data that, for example, a person or a traveler who booked through a travel agent spends 3 times more in a destination than a traveler who books direct. So a couple of ideas there that you can build on, but it gives you an indication of what I think you should be doing going forward and where the trends are. So thank you.
Thank you. That was very exciting to know that travel agents still play a huge, major role in Vietnam. I also like that you talked about movie tourism. We all know that Vietnam hosted Skull Island in Ninh Bình. Did you think that made a difference for Vietnam in terms of attracting even more tourists or even luxury tourists?
I think absolutely. And UNWTO, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, where I used to work before Amadeus, is actually doing a study right now about movies, and they're working with Netflix, and they're linking where people travel together with what movies and TV series they watch. So there is a huge influence. And I mean, Lord of the Rings is another movie that was put New Zealand on the map. Crocodile Dundee put Australia on the map. You know, there's so movies and films and TV series, entertainment has a huge impact, and it's a huge opportunity.
Wonderful. Mr. Rayner, again, what makes this kind of travel so attractive for our high-spending tourists? Yep.
Okay, so I spent 15 years in Australia, in Sydney, working with the inbound market, and I specialized in entertainment. So basically, I worked with all the bands and the TV shows and the film productions. So Matrix 1, 2, 3 was filmed in Sydney, and then the bands, you know, like Madonna, U2, and all that. So it's a market, to me, that's a luxury market, because I've dealt with people who are to me, the luxury market are the people who are very demanding, and they want things which are perfect, seamless, and you really need to zoom in on the intention. Yeah, forget demographics, that's old school. You know, you got to look at the intention of people. What do they want? And you got to understand their needs very, very clearly, and you have to be proactive. So in June, I went to America and I became a student. I went back to Harvard, and I did disruptive innovation, which it was developed over a 20-year period, where basically Harvard is saying that growth is fueled by innovation. And to innovate, you need to understand the intention. And they've developed one theory, which is called getting the job done, the job to be done, it's called. And the job to be done, I can best explain it by giving you an example. McDonald's were trying to increase the sale of milkshakes, and they tried everything over a number of years, nothing worked. They did all the focus groups, they did the research, they changed the price, they changed the color, they changed the taste, nothing had an impact. So they hired Harvard to actually analyze the consumer and figure out why and what can they do to grow the market. So when Harvard went in, they actually looked at why people were buying the milkshake and what they were doing with the milkshake. And they found that 50% of the milkshakes were sold before 8:30 a.m. They were all sold to individual people who drove in with a car, got the milkshake, walked out, got into the car, and drove away. Now, the job that these people needed to be done was they needed something to keep their stomach happy on the way to work while they're driving. Now, it's a very simple thing, but that's what you need to do. You need to focus on what do these people, once you identify who your luxury market is, you need to understand and identify what are the needs of this market, and then you can attract them by providing the right solution.
That's very interesting to understand what the luxury market wants, indeed. Mr. Grover, what do you think of the upcoming tourism trends of high-spending tourists?
Sure. Thank you so much for your question. So I work for a company called Booking.com, and Booking.com is one of the major online travel aggregators in the world, which means that we specifically do not focus on one segment of customer, but in general, we make sure that we make it easier for everybody, regardless of their budget, regardless of their location. We make it easy for everybody to experience the world. So I agree with Alexander that it's very important to first address the question, what is luxury market? Because not necessarily luxury market means a high spending market, because the personas of different kind of customers could be different. It could be a millennial, it could be a more mature age of segment of customers. But what I can say based on the insights and expertise I have is that there are different trends emerging. I think today, especially after COVID, overall, the sentiments of consumers when they travel has evolved. Today, people don't just consider travel as a luxury or a privilege. They actually are trying to make sure that when they travel, they do something better for the world. So one of the trends which is truly emerging very fast is trend of sustainable tourism. We see that today more and more people are moving towards the path of self-actualization, especially people who can spend more. They want to contribute towards the communities. They want to contribute towards the local environment they travel to. They want to make sure that when they travel, they not just spend money to enjoy, but they learn something out of it. And we see that as a major trend which is building up. Another trend, which is not very new, but has been there for a while, is more experiential travel. So I think, Nicholas, James, you were talking about, how branded products are becoming more popular with customers today. I think that is true. People who can afford brands, they would definitely do that. But we see that the generation today is also becoming more conscious of the quality and not just brand. So if there are experiences which are high quality, but probably very unique niche brands, then we do see that those kind of products are also becoming popular, especially in hospitality industry. I see that, there are certain locations where a high branded product might not be as popular as a very boutique product, which has a high quality of service, very experiential, product. So I think those are few trends which are emerging.
That's very interesting and insightful. So I think it's good to come back to the definition part, because both of you did mention. So in your opinion, what do you think luxury travel is? Or each one of you could tell your thoughts about luxury travel and your definition, and how would you see it? Do you say luxury travel is sustainable travel? Any thoughts?
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good to having me. I mean, luxury traveling and high spending is actually not new. It's, since ever. But important is to have a good mix. Talking about being a hotelier or to have a hotel, you need to have different segments, different markets. Of course, those luxury traveler or high-end, they know, they are very good informed. On the old time, it was the crystal glasses, the silver plateau, the golden things, But this has a little bit changed. It's not about diamond and all these glittery things. It's more about personalized. It's about safety, security, individual, and flexibility, Talking about Hanoi Daewoo Hotel, I'm proud to lead this hotel for the last 7 years. It's one of the first 5-star hotel on the capital in Hanoi. I believe we have understood very well that we need not only those who have big pockets, but we need all of them. But everyone has different requests. And as a hotelier and as an operation, you must be able to serve them, their needs. On time, they have different requests. I'm not talking only about 24 hours, but the things has to be one stop and available. They want to have the things. It's not only that you need to have room service. It's more about that. You know, you must have the whole facet of spa. We offer with pool, individual service. And in our case, what we did lately, to provide more private rooms. And this helps definitely. It's not mean they don't want to share. Of course, they don't want to be seen. However, with the epidemic and all these things, people like to have their dinner or their meeting in a special place. You know, and I believe we have to reinvent ourselves, not on a daily basis, but, you know, we have to go with the time. We have to understand really what we stand, what or who we want to have. It's different if you're dealing with groups or with individual or with families or whatever. In our case, we have the possibility to serve them all. Why? Because we have different floor, different standards, different amenities and all these things. It's also depending what you pay in the end. And that's mean also what you get somehow, you know. That's in shortly said, you know.
Thank you. Rainer, your thoughts on?
Sure. So from my perspective, I think, you know, there are various ways of categorizing luxury travel. I used to think of it as people who flew first class and business class and stayed in a suite and so forth. Then working in the entertainment industry, I kind of changed my perspective. And I think more appropriate, it's people who want the best. And they want the best and they're willing to pay for it. And also they want personalization and seamless journey. So for example, Frank Sinatra would fly into Sydney on his private jet, and he doesn't want to go to customs and go through immigration. Customs and immigration come to him. They come to the private jet, and then he walks off the plane and goes in a limo directly to his hotel, goes straight to his room. No waiting time at the check-in counter, no waiting time in restaurants waiting for a table, but they want the best of everything. And no wastage of time. And that to me is, in my opinion, the luxury market, because it's wrong to actually think, in my opinion, first class. I mean, I looked after Bill Gates when he came to Australia. He flew economy class, right? And this is a guy who's a multi-billionaire. I was his driver, right? I had a limo company way back. And as his chauffeur, he came on economy class. So just because somebody is, someone could be super rich, but it doesn't mean they're going to be staying in the rich hotel, in the most expensive hotel, in the biggest suite. You might find them in a backpacker or something that they actually want. So you need to be conscious of that. You know, you cannot have a definition which is kind of locked in. You've got to be flexible about how you define. It's about the people who want an experience personalized and they are willing to pay for it. That's kind of the way I've defined it.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, pretty much same. To me, luxury travel is definitely a kind of travel which generates higher revenue, for sure. That's the must, right? Also, it involves usage of high quality product, not necessarily very expensive, but for sure luxury in terms of quality. And there are certain kinds of, you know, sub-segments within luxury travel. I think wellness tourism is one of those segments, because for sure, you know, for a luxury traveler today, they don't just travel and stay in a place, right? They want to experience more. Hence, usage of spa, other kind of facilities becomes very important. So wellness tourism is a kind of luxury travel to me. And yeah, I was talking about sustainable travel. I think it all comes to, it's very subjective, what luxury means to an individual. But one thing is for sure that with COVID, I think somebody was saying that people had a lot of time to think. I think you mentioned that. People do care about their impact. People do care about where their money is being spent. And they do want to act, make sure that their travel is actually acting like a force for good. So for sure, if that money is going to some kind of cause which can make them feel better and impacts them positively, then I think it is a kind of travel which is picking up, and especially with the high spenders, especially for people who can spend on that kind of experience.
Very true. The traditional way of looking at tourism has changed tremendously these few days.
May I add something also? I mean, everything is said well, What I wish to underline is those guests who has the possibility to spend money, they're, of course, willing to spend money, but it must be a proper deal. It must be exclusive, or it must be something unique. And I think it's wrong to think, they can pay and they will go for everything, and price is not an issue. They know exactly. They're well educated. We have to be fair. It must be a value. And also, it's not only what we have in the property. Those people looking forward, maybe they want to book or to go to an opera or to a theater or to something specific. That's why those people, they go to specific destination or places. And yes, as I believe James mentioned it also, they need to be on the safe side, healthy, and all these things. They take care about that. Also, what they eat or which material or all these things becomes more important to them. And it's not only a brand we have to deliver. And I believe in Vietnam, the Vietnamese market has the big opportunity for that. Also, because they are warm, they are service-oriented, and they can deal with individual requests. And that also, they can attract rich people or wealthy people from all over the world, because there's much to offer in terms of culture, tradition. You have the mountain, you have the beach, you have tea culture, all these things, But also, they have understood they need to offer sport, for instance, golf, or diving, or, for religions. All these things have to be covered. And the more a destination can offer, the better it is. The more people from all over you bring in. And then, of course, you need exclusivity in terms of cuisines or restaurants. You need shopping mall, so that they really find their things. It's a challenge, but I believe Vietnam is doing great, and they understand that, and they want to cover all those segments, which is very important. If you just go for one direction or for one segment, if something has happened, you're lost. That's why you need different nationality from different places from the world with different interests, so that you are multicultural,
It's wonderful. Speaking about that, personalized and individual service, Ms. Popo, do you think these high-spending tourists that we have are coming into Vietnam do require privacy and safety? What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, it's all about that. They must know that they are, when they book, for instance, a hotel, they must understand that those hotels, they don't play around. They are straightforward, honest. Of course, security is a must, safety, all these things. But it's also, who is dealing with them? Our staff. So the staff In our case, we invest a lot in trainings, in languages, also to adapt for new market or new segments. I'll give you an example. It's not a secret that more and more people from India coming now to Vietnam. So what we have to do is to adapt to their needs, to their culture, to be able to provide what they're looking for. It makes no sense if we want to have these segments, but we are not able to cater or to make them happy. So that's why for a hotel, it's important to understand what's going on, to whom we are looking for, and to please all those individuals, if it's a group or the high spenders or whatever, but we need all of them. We want happy guests. And what we need most, customers who come back and back and back. If it's local or international tourists, we need them back. As Mr. Bauer mentioned, he has customers 14 times. I mean, doesn't matter how many times, but we're looking forward to have them back. It's mean if they come back, we did a job well. Otherwise, you won't go back. And it's in our industry, I believe it's one of the wonderful industry. We can go with the time, we can setting always, and we go with the trend, and we setting trends. In our case, in our hotels, we try to give always a specific, unique touch. We don't want, and we are not a chain hotel, or we are not, I don't want to mention name, but we are Hanoi Daewoo Hotel. We are proud of that, and we can make the difference. And that's why we are successful, I believe, over the last 26 years. Because we do it our way, and we put on everything our stamp on our signature. However, warm hospitality is everything, you know. It's us who makes the difference. It's not only the brand or the material or the techniques. Of course, you need them. But it doesn't, the technique doesn't serve. The technique is just a tool who helps. But in our hospitality, we have human beings, we have the smile, we have happy stuff. And this makes, and this is, I believe, a big thing. And Vietnam has that. I'm very happy to be here and to see that. And that's what people telling us, you know.
Wonderful. And talking about everything that we are doing, we are definitely the person who's going to make the change in tourism and hospitality. Mr. Reina, in your opinion, which would be the ideal destination for high-spending tourists?
Well, obviously the answer is Vietnam. And being here, I have to say Ho Chi Minh City, right?
You can mention also Hanoi.
I don't think you can answer that question. It's like asking you, where is your favorite place to go? The more you travel, the harder it becomes to answer that question, because the more you travel, there are more places. And I go to places and I have specific things that I actually look forward to. I have my favorite pizza in one place, I have my favorite coffee in another, I have my favorite cocktail in another, and so forth. So I don't think for the luxury market, you can say there is one place. I think you just got to be realistic and look at the different options that are out there, and look at the data. I mean, follow the data to see where people are going, and then try to understand why. And you have a lot of academia here, and I was pleased to learn that RMIT had such a huge presence and in Vietnam, which Nuno made me aware of on a couple of nights ago. He was sitting next to me at dinner, and I was amazed. I'm like, an American working for RMIT, which is an Australian university in Vietnam. I mean, yeah, it was a surprise, a pleasant surprise. And so I think it's an opportunity for the businesses in Vietnam to actually leverage the academia and the thousands and thousands of students that you are actually grooming to become the talent and the actual strength of Vietnam going forward. And end of the day, it's the talent that I think actually makes the difference. The talent. And the talent is at the universities and the education institutions today. And I think every business should be leveraging the universities, engaging with the universities, getting students involved in internships and in projects and so forth. Why? Because these are your future talent acquisitions. These are your future resources. These are the people that are going to be running your business in the future and maybe creating you to be the best company with the best service for the luxury market. So I think that's a big opportunity that Vietnam is sitting on. I'm not sure the numbers of the population, but I think there's a huge number of younger people. And so that gives Vietnam a tremendous opportunity. Everywhere I travel around the world, and I've worked with about 70 governments actively. And the number one complaint today is talent. And one more thing I want to add. I know that a lot of governments have policies where they say we want to develop the talent and train people, which is great. But you need to think about one more thing. If you train them, you need to also think about how you retain them. And Thailand has a huge problem because the Thailand government has invested in training Thai people. Once they get trained, they go to Saudi Arabia to work, and Thailand loses it. And they get paid a lot better in Saudi Arabia. So that's a real issue that I think needs to be addressed. So yeah.
Thank you. Yes, please go.
Actually, I'm from Switzerland. Switzerland is also very famous for tourism since long time. But lately, they ask me what Vietnam makes that they are so successful. I mean, we are talking about the last 10 years like that. It's amazing. And one of the keys, everything is possible. Everything is under one umbrella. It's a destination for single or for family or for elderly people, whatever. The only things what I see, they should make the visa policy easy, simply, straightforward, that people can come for 1, 2, 3 months or even longer without bureaucracy, without a lot of hassles. This makes the destination much more interesting. And then most probably more people would come, because not everyone wants to go through a process of application and like that, and they want to be ensure that they can go and traveling, or they want to traveling. Those, if we are talking about high-end spenders, if they are already here, they want to go to Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, in and out, without, I mean, freely. I think that's something which personally I would support if the things would be made much easier.
I think the Ministry of Tourism definitely has heard you, because this morning they did announce that they're going to try to simplify the visa process for tourists, which is a great news for all of us. Mr.
Sorry, to me? Okay, where high spenders are going?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I think first let me talk about who are these people who are actually traveling, right? So Booking.com actually conducted a commission research early this year, where we reached out to around 11,000 respondents from 11 different countries across Asia Pacific region. And in that survey, what came out was that India was the #1 country where people feel most comfortable to start traveling. And second was Vietnam, right? So for sure, with whatever's happening in Vietnam in terms of easing out restrictions, in terms of the overall consumer confidence when it comes to travel, and obviously good value for money, I feel Vietnam is definitely one of those destinations where high spenders would be traveling to. Also, I can see that Vietnam has been really good in resuming new flight routes. I know because I'm an Indian, and with India, at least there are 16 new direct routes coming up. So I can see that, there are a lot of things working for Vietnam. And in terms of destinations within Vietnam, I can say that Halong Bay is one of those destinations which always attracts high-spending tourists. Phu Quoc is another very important destination close to Ho Chi Minh, good flight connectivity. I think that works a lot in its favor. And of course, there are new destinations like Ho Chi Minh, not new, but not like Da Nang or, Ho Chi Minh, but definitely an upcoming destination when it comes to high-spending tourists. Mui Ne, Ho Chi Minh, these are a few places which are picking up. So for sure, I see a very bright future for Vietnam. It will continue to grow at a very fast pace.
It's very interesting that you talked about Indian market. It's definitely a huge market, and we see more investors are also coming into Vietnam to invest here. Recently, we also saw that weddings are big for Indian markets. Do you think those kind of luxury market will still continue here?
Absolutely. So Indian weddings are huge. We all know that. And Vietnam traditionally has not been a market where Indians come to do destination weddings. Thailand and a lot of places in Europe have always been very, very important for Indian consumers when it comes to that segment. So I see that as a great opportunity. Vietnam has so much to offer, from mountains to pristine beaches to beautiful, very niche locations with great experiences. I think Indian weddings is a very high potential segment for tourism businesses in Vietnam. And I am also aware that there's lots happening in that space. So for sure, I'm very positive about the future.
That's so exciting to hear. And Mr. Grover again, could you kindly tell us, do you have any special policy or services when for luxury market, especially when they are traveling?
Sure. So first of all, we have a team on ground. We have about 30 market managers who work very closely with our luxury hotel partners. So I think the first service is a high level of consultancy when it comes to review and distribution for our partners. Secondly, I think to be more serious, right, in terms of our product, we recently started something called resort credits. So we realized that a lot of hotel partners, accommodation partners today would like to bundle up rates, right? Let's say a spa service along with room stay, or it could be a dinner, different kind of meal plans. So we've launched this new feature on booking.com, and that is one thing which is gaining a lot of importance. We also have something very successful in terms of a product feature, which is called Travel Sustainable Badge. So, sustainable travel is such an important trend, but it's so confusing. What is sustainability in travel? Customers don't know. So we realized that while customers are not very comfortable going to a place, by not understanding what sustainability actually means, at the same time, there are a lot of accommodation partners who already have sustainable practices in their properties, but they don't know how to highlight them. So Booking, being such a big travel platform, took that responsibility, and along with Google, Expedia, a lot of industry players, we came together, formed an alliance, and there's something called Travel Sustainable Badge, which was launched in Q2 this year, somewhere around June. And this badge basically allows our accommodation partners to highlight what kind of sustainable practices they follow in their property. Now, these practices could be anything related to water saving, reduced use of plastic, how do these hotels, let's say, contribute towards local community, where do they source their food from. So all those things are which now hotels can easily highlight, and based on the number of practices they have, they get a badge. So I think that's been super successful. We see a huge traction with that. And health and hygiene certification, again, is something which is very popular on our platform. As a filter, a lot of our customers try to, look for the accommodations which have an enhanced level of safety and hygiene procedures in place. So that's another feature we've launched.
That's so encouraging to hear, the sustainable travel badge. That's very exciting. Mr. Popo, does that eco your property?
Definitely, you know, in terms we did during this pandemic time, for instance, all restaurant F&B concept, we reduced and to spend, you know, in design, in health, all these things, you know, to have for everyone something available at any time. And we got very good feedback already, but of course we're looking forward now. What I wish to add also, Vietnam should not copy other destinations. Of course, we can look what they are doing and like that. But Vietnam is Vietnam, and Vietnam should have some, Vietnam is unique. So we should have, and to sell the unity, the special things. And those clients, they want to have different things. They want to see or to experience things which they have never seen or maybe heard about, but they want to join or to try or to be a part of it. If it's food or it's culture, whatever, or, you know, this with, for instance, in Hanoi, there is with, how we say, porcelain and like that. So people are really interested how they make it, how this works, how they make these wonderful blades or vases and like that. This is culture, tradition, this is knowledge over generation. Those people, they are interesting and hungry to learn and to see such things which they never experienced.
Thank you so much. We are coming to an end. So the last question I would like to ask Mr. Rainer. What do you think tourism businesses should do to attract high spending tourists?
Well, I guess in summary, number one, develop a data-driven culture. Understand what's happening in the market. What does the luxury traveler want? Identify what is a luxury traveler to you. Understand what they want and align it with your offerings, or innovate and create things which are new to make sure you capture that market. And, you know, obviously, the second area is how do you promote? Well, I think travel agents is a channel that you should be considering, because travel agents are actually influencing people, especially during COVID. The consumer has gone back to travel agents because they want advice and they want help. And because the regulations are changing constantly around the world, travel agents keep on top of that. So a lot of people, when they travel, they don't want to have a headache of flying and arriving in a destination, and the rules have changed. The travel agents are there as insurance, and they're really earning their dollars now, and we see that in the data and the numbers. So that's number two. And number three, I would say partner with education institutions and engage their students, give them the opportunity to do internships and projects together so that they can help you create that data-driven culture, and they can bring you a fresh way of thinking, because ultimately these students are your future employees, and you can become competitive by finding the best ones in while they're still studying. So those are my three recommendations.
Thank you so much. That was such insightful, and we would like to thank all our three guests today. On behalf of the organizing committee of Ho Chi Minh City Department of Tourism, Wanderlust Tips, a bilingual English-Vietnamese magazine, would like to express our sincere thanks to all three of you for your wonderful insights, which is so valuable that we cannot get. Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander Rainer, Director, Government Destination Relationship at Amadeus, Mr. Warren Grover, Country Head of Booking.com for Vietnam, and Mr. Erwin Poppel, the General Manager of Dawood Hanoi Hotel. Thank you so much, everybody, for this wonderful day, and I hope that you had an amazing time at the 16th Ho Chi Minh City International Tourism Expo. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Và bây giờ xin được trân trọng kính mời ông Lê Trương Hiền Hòa và bà Nguyễn Cẩm Tú sẽ tiến lên sân khấu tặng hoa gửi đến các diễn giả và điều phối viên của phiên thảo luận cuối cùng trong ngày hôm nay. So now please receive the bouquet of flowers as thanks from the organizers. Vâng ạ. Và hãy dành cho họ một tràng pháo tay thật nồng nhiệt với những thông tin rất hữu ích vừa rồi. A round of applause for the valuable information. Once again, thank you very much, our esteemed speakers and moderator. Và bây giờ tôi được trân trọng kính mời các diễn giả. I would like to invite to the stage our esteemed speakers for group photo. Kindly proceed to the stage. Trân trọng kính mời các diễn giả, chúng ta sẽ cùng tiến lên sân khấu để chụp ảnh lưu niệm. So please step forward, yes, for perfect group photo. So ladies and gentlemen, now straight at the camera and cheer. Vâng ạ, một tràng pháo tay gửi đến họ. Once again, a round of applause for our esteemed speakers and moderators for the perfect tourism marketing day today. Once again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Vâng thưa quý vị, và như vậy là chúng ta đã đến với những giây phút cuối cùng trong khuôn khổ của chuỗi sự kiện Truyền thông điểm đến Tourism Marketing Day thuộc Hội chợ du lịch quốc tế Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh lần thứ 16 năm 2022. Và thưa quý vị, cho phép Phương Uyên xin được thay mặt những người thực hiện chương trình gửi lời cảm ơn trân trọng nhất một lần nữa đến quý vị đại biểu, các diễn giả và quý vị khách quý đang theo dõi trực tiếp và trực tuyến qua các nền tảng online của ITE. Cảm ơn quý vị đã dành thời gian để lắng nghe những chia sẻ ngày hôm nay, và đây cũng là hoạt động khép lại ITE Hồ Chí Minh City lần thứ 16 năm 2022. Trân trọng cảm ơn quý vị một lần nữa và rất mong sẽ được gặp lại quý vị ở những hoạt động tiếp theo của ITE năm 2023. So ladies and gentlemen, this is also the last moment of the Tourism Marketing Day. Once again, on behalf of the organizers, we'd like to send the biggest gratitude to our esteemed speakers, moderators, and distinguished guests. Thank you and have a good evening. Một lần nữa xin được trân trọng cảm ơn quý vị. Thank you.
Goes dark when heaven falls, the shadows rise and you lose it all. Late night alone, you'll soon be gone. Baby, can't you see I'm living in a dream?